3 brand new characters are coming to Genshin Impact for version 5.0. We're going to go over the kits of Mualani, Kinich, and Kachina to help you understand exactly what they do, what their roles will be, and generally talk about everything that was revealed in the live stream and what we still need to know from actually playing them to fully learn how good they'll be. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. Starting with Kachina. Kachina will be given out for free during the 5.0 quest, so you'll be able to get at least one copy of her for absolute sure. She looks like she'll have some really useful exploration passive to be able to climb cliff faces and find the Natlan specialties around the map, but of course her combat use will be her elemental skill and burst, which seems to do bursty geo damage as sort of like a sub DPS, and so she enters this special state and she'll be able to do this little bursty damage where she jumps up and down with her little thing, and it looks like you'll kind of, drill the ground and crash the enemies. And it's unclear to me how big this AoE is. Like, if you look here, I guess this looks like her elemental burst, and then her elemental skill has a bit lower of a range, but it's still a pretty decent AoE, so it should hit enemies at a good distance around. And this skill also counts as a construct, so it will combo directly with Chiori. And I know they did actually reveal the artifact set in the live stream somewhere, but I'm not sure where, and I'm not sure exactly which if it was both or just one. So I'll just say that there is a new Natlan artifact set that buffs the team really significantly, and Kachina will be able to use that artifact set, and that will be a very large part of her value. Being able to use that artifact set will greatly increase her value on teams that she will be good in. So she should be very good for Navia teams, potentially even best in slot as a replacement for Chiori, or maybe even addition to Chiori, because again, her thing counts as a construct and Chiori does good damage, so maybe that will really put a lot of stress on your last character to apply off-field element, so I'm not so sure about that. And on top of that, she might finally be the geo sub DPS we need to partner with Chiori to make an actually good double geo core, because right now, like, using Zhongli as the part of the double geo core is good, but what we'd really prefer is to just have more damage. So depending on her damage, it really all comes down to her damage and how good that Natlan artifact set really will be. If her damage is really good, then partnering her with Chiori, partnering her up with Navia should be really, really good. Maybe she could replace Zhongli for Novelette teams. Seems kind of sus because Novelette really wants that resistance shred, but maybe the damage bonus would be worth it. I don't know. You'll notice, by the way, that we talked about this Nightsoul burst state, this special state that all the Natlan characters have. So whether it's Kachina, whether it's Mualani, and whether it's Kinich, we'll talk about Mualani next, but all of them have the same special state, the Nightsoul burst state. And it seems like that this will be common throughout all of the Natlan characters, because even the artifact set, both the artifact sets reference the Nightsoul burst state. So it seems like it's like, I'm a Natlan character. And it will allow them to interact with each other. Now, whether that's good game design or not good game design, I haven't really decided. It does potentially restrict the artifact sets to not buffing as many characters as it otherwise could have. Like, it's sort of more fun when it can go back and buff old characters too. However, sometimes, like, if it buffs OP older characters, then it restricts how, like, it doesn't always have the intended effect. So it can be good, it can be bad. My initial impression on hearing that there's like all these mechanics referencing certain characters, I'm a little bit like worried to it. I'm not sure if it's going to be good. It seems, but it also could be like, I was really worried about the Uja and Numa mechanic as well with Fontaine. So I'm not sure, but I'm not terrified of it or hopeful, or I'm cautiously neutral. I know some people are cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously neutral towards the mechanic. I get why they're going for it. It's kind of a more hard and fast version of the Farina thing, where Farina, like the Marishise Hunter, only works for characters that gain and lose HP. And so the only old character that really affected was Zhao until Farina came around. Will Farina do like the same? Will Mavwika, the Pyro Archon, will she do the same thing and make all your characters be Nightsoul burst characters, be Natlan characters? That would be really interesting if they wanted to repeat that again. And if not, it just gives more incentive to run Natlan characters and farm Natlan artifacts, which I guess I'm sort of agnostic about. I'm just not sure if it's going to be good or not. So we'll have to wait and see. But on to Mualani's actual kit. So when she launches her skill, she mounts her surfboard and enters the Nightsoul burst state. When she comes into contact with enemies, she marks them. When Sharky Bite hits marked enemies, it deals more damage and also fires Sharky missiles to all the enemies that she's tagged. So as long as you tag enemies, she does damage to those enemies, kind of like how Nahida does guaranteed damage with her skill to all enemies that she's tagged. Mualani does kind of the same thing, except Mualani is like actually like a DPS instead of mostly a just dendro applicator. If she marks enemies multiple times, it builds stacks, and the more stacks that she builds, the more damage her Sharky Bite will do. So you want to mark either lots of enemies or mark the enemies multiple times to gain those 3 stacks on the side, so that she gets the most damage possible. This is a very interesting playstyle. It's not something we've ever seen before. They're using her with Xiangling here. That makes sense because you're going to want to vaporize all of these hits. When a Hydro character does fewer hits, they can actually vaporize those hits, and Hydro consumes all of the pyro on an opponent, so you need lots of pyro. You need more pyro than Hydro to vaporize your Hydro character than if like you're applying Hydro and then you apply Pyro to vaporize the Pyro. That only consumes half of the Hydro on the enemy. So like Hu Tao can easily vape all of her hits. It's much harder for Hydro characters to do this. And Xiangling right now is the only character that provides enough Pyro that this should be possible. So this really tells me that Mavuika, the Pyro Archon, is going to be a Xiangling replacement, or be able to function like one. And this is going to be really interesting because Mualani is going to have a few really strong hits, and how good she'll be or how fun she'll be really depends on, you know, how strong these hits are. I can see multi-wave being a bit of a pain because you might overkill an enemy if like an enemy has just a little bit of HP remaining. That might make it really tough. Like you don't want to use a huge, you know, 200,000 damage nuke to just finish off a low HP enemy. Like you'd be wasting a lot of damage. But at the same time, depending on how they make their scalings for her, like they know that that Neuvillette is the benchmark for Hydro DPSs. They can't release a character that's too much worse than Neuvillette. Otherwise, everyone will just say pull Neuvillette, just pull Neuvillette. So it'll be really interesting to see how good she ends up being. I think a lot of this is going to come down to the practicality side. How practical is it to actually use her kit and get all of her damage out? And of course, just how much damage she does in general will definitely matter. So I'm very, very interested. And both for her and Kinich, by the way, I do definitely expect the Pyro Archon to make them a lot better, because Kinich, as we're going to find out, utilizes burning to do his damage, and Mualani wants pyro applied. So both of them really want a pyro character, and surprise, surprise, we're in the nation of pyro. So this definitely confirms even more what we already knew the Archon was going to be. And Kinich looks really cool. First of all, he's got this exploration passive. All 3 of them do. Mualani also can surf over water, which they showed. And then Kinich can do this Tarzan kind of stuff, which is really awesome. I really love the 8-bit dragon, by the way. It's really, really funny and cool. So he uses his elemental skill to be Spider-Man. Kind of reminds me of the Wuthering Waves travel mechanic, like a lot. Or just like, which I guess reminds me of like Spider-Man, the Spider-Man video game. Not everything originated in gacha. He's Spider-Man. But okay, so he's got a few different parts to his kit. So he'll use his elemental skill to essentially tag an enemy, and then he'll circle around the enemy, firing off dendro damage towards the enemy, and he does more damage when they're burning. Obviously, he'll be in the Nightsoul state, so the same Natlan state that the other ones were in, which will make him synergize with the new artifact set. If you're wondering, by the way, the new artifact sets, one of them is a buffer set, and one of them gives a lot of crit rate. It's like Marishisei Hunter for Natlan. So the other thing that Kinich does is when he builds up enough stacks from this skill thing, he'll go into like this hold mode where he'll charge these cannons and shoot the cannonballs, and that'll do a lot of damage as well. And then his burst is just this, he summons his pixel dragon and it just does a bunch of damage. And it looks like it's looking like Kinich will be pretty single target oriented outside of his burst, because he sort of tags just one enemy, and then his cannon shots, it's hard to tell how much. They didn't really show him an AoE. They mostly showed him against one enemy. So it's sort of unclear exactly how good his AoE will be. Like Mualani has like a built-in mechanic for AoE, but Kinich will have to do it the old-fashioned way. So yeah, I mean, he's going to be compared to Alhaitham. We've had a trend of the new DPSs being really, really good. So I expect these characters to be around the level of the solid DPSs. This is what I personally expect. I expect that these characters will be around the level of the solid DPSs, Alhaitham, Chlorand, etc. And then with the Archon, I expect them to be a bit better. Maybe around, maybe just below Arlecchino, maybe above, maybe below Novelette. I'm sure we'll get 1 DPS or 2 or maybe 3 that are better than Novelette. It seems like we're getting stronger DPSs now. I still don't think power creep is a massive problem in Genshin. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, they're giving away free stuff and they're power creeping everything. And I don't actually think that power creep is still a huge problem in Genshin, because with every strong character we get, it doesn't weaken the other characters, first of all. And so old on-field DPSs get buffed when we get new broken buffers and off-fielders. It raises up their floor. And we get new on-fielders that raise up kind of really niche buffers before, like Candace was raised up by Arlecchino, and like Mona is made better by Arlecchino and Chlorand with some new stuff that they got. So as long as a character was good to start with, normally there's stuff that will bring them up. There's a few exceptions, like yoimiya has gotten comparatively very few buffs with like the Fontaine stuff, whereas Hu Tao and all the other characters have gotten buffs like in different team options and different stuff that makes them better. yoimiya sort of got the short end of the stick. Same with Eula. Still got buffed by Farina, both of them, so they're stronger than they used to be. But even the floor is raised. Like even the less good characters, and like characters like Ning Wang was historically completely useless. Geo Traveler got new life with Navia teams, and yeah, maybe eventually it's not the best team, but it still raises the value of those old characters. So I think generally Genshin's been really good at, if they're going to do a power creep, they also bring up some old characters with it. And while it doesn't negate the fact that power creep does exist in Genshin, that it's very heavily mitigated by the fact that old characters get essentially buffed as well. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I will have access to the creator experience server, so we'll get a little bit of early footage for these characters. And then just the way things are working, my official value judgment of these characters might have to wait until after release, because if I try and make the value judgment beforehand based on the experience server, it might not be as good of a judgment as we're used to, because it works a little differently now. So unfortunately, you'll have to wait a bit longer. You'll see my first impressions and then you'll see my guide, but might have to wait a bit longer for the official judgment. Might have to be like a week or 2 after the banner comes out, because it's going to take a while to farm up these guys' artifact set and to farm up all that stuff to get my full final opinion on them, which kind of suck. But on the plus side, when that video does come out, it will also include all the knowledge of everyone else that everyone else has discovered. And so the final product video should be very, very accurate and very, very good. We'll see how it goes. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I should be doing. But just in case I do end up making like 3 videos per character, like a first impressions, then a guide video, and then like a final review like way after the banner comes out. So 2 videos like before they release, and then 1 video quite a bit after. That's like a lot of videos. So I wanted to make this pre-release just to give you an idea of what they do with all the characters in one, so that it's not like video overload for all these characters. So let me know your thoughts. Take care. Bye for now.